question of our next meeting. We ended up with available dates in January. The earliest we could meet is the last Monday in January, the 29th. And we normally would have a meeting a 1 week later, the first Monday of February. So I might suggest that, two meetings 2 weeks in a row probably doesn't make a lot of sense. And it might be best all around if we just basically skip to January, because we're practically into February anyway at best.
CMRPC, do you see an issue with that in terms of timeline? I mean, I think that probably makes sense. And then we can just go over multiple things at the February meeting.
Yeah, I think that's fine. And we can send some materials over email. We'll be working on goals, and those are very much amenable to information sent by email. So we can do that. We can send some email materials in January for the February meeting.
Okay, awesome. So Dave, so now that we've figured that out, I did want to, should we still do roll call? Because I did actually want to introduce somebody who's here tonight.
Yeah, we'll just go through a roll call just as just to make sure we have an accurate count here, and if we indeed don't have a quorum, we really won't be able to take any votes on anything. But other than that, let's just go through and let everybody know who's here. I'll call the roll of the committee members. John Allen.
Good evening.
Guru Anand. Andrea Bresnahan. Julie Capizzello. Bob Carroll.
Yeah, Bob Carroll's here.
Doreen DeFazio. Victoria Duckworth. Susan Duvall.
Good evening.
Lindsay Fox. Anne-Marie Foley. Shivaganti. Deborah George.
Here.
Julie Grace. Philip Grasso. Linda Hassinger. Linda.
Here.
Justin Hollander.
Here.
Ryan Houle.
Here.
Chantel Kimball.
Here.
Jennifer Lewis. Hemant Pasala. Essek Petrie. David Robbins here. Sue Robbins.
Here.
JT Ross. Colleen Roy.
Here.
Bruce Spinney. And Roshan Otangi. So that makes, by my count, 12, which is too short of a quorum.
Yes.
So with that said, we do have a guest with us who has been interested, as I understand it. Alex, if you want to introduce yourself and say a word.
Sure.
There you go.
My name's Alex Mejia. I moved to town not too long ago. I'm good friends with Chuck and Andrea. They spoke very highly of this group, so just wanted to join today and kind of hear what it's all about and get to know everyone. So thank you for having me.
All right. Well, thank you and welcome, and hopefully this somewhat abbreviated meeting will be at least an introduction to almost half of the committee.
No problem.
So we have.
Dave, sorry,
Yes,
if I may interject while we're doing intros. I just wanted to give a really brief and quick overview before we start jumping into the visioning about some changes to the group, if that's okay with you.
That was where I was going next with my.
Before I so rudely cut you off, I should have known. So I think we have had a couple of folks resign. They are scheduled, their resignations are scheduled for the select board meeting tomorrow night. Philip and Hemant. So Alex, if you're interested and you think that you can make the monthly meetings, reach out to me and let me know if you would like to be appointed. That would, the other option is, which I was thinking of, and that we can have a brief discussion about this, is having an associate member. So Alex or whomever is interested would step up in that capacity, which basically means coming to the meetings and participating in the discussion and obviously having their voices heard. But in the event that somebody needs to act on, we need somebody to step up to act on a vote because there's a conflict of interest, somebody on the working group can't do it for whatever reason, the associate member would step up. So it's really not that much different from the regular working group member position. And it also, I'm just continuing to have fears about meeting quorum. And I think that the associate member position helps us kind of get around that. But I also do want to give anyone who's interested an opportunity to join, because our charge does allow for up to 27 members. So I just wanted to point that out to the group. And obviously, if anyone knows of anyone is interested in participating, or if anybody, Alex or whomever, just let me know, and we'll be able to set you up either way. I don't know if anyone on the working group wants to chat more about it, but oh yeah, Sue, go ahead.
I just want to make a comment. It's always difficult to get a quorum, but I think that the chair should send out a letter for people who are really not coming and ask them if they're really going to participate, because there were some people in this meeting tonight who sacrificed something else in order to be here. And that's not fair to them. So I really think that a memo should be sent out and ask them, are you taking this committee seriously? Can you attend? We sit here and everyone could do something else this evening, and we don't have a quorum. And I know I sound like I'm really, I won't use the word complaining, but anyway, it's just really disturbing that when people have plans and that we give it up because we feel this is more important, and we make it and other people don't mind.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Dave, I'll coordinate with you to make sure we get those letters out, because I think that's a good idea. But Chantel, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just a quick follow-up, because people have lives, stuff happens, but if people had just let you know, then you would have known in advance that there wasn't going to be a quorum and we could have rescheduled the meeting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I did hear from a couple of folks, but yeah, I know. I think I need to be more proactive about making sure people RSVP. I might try and change the Zoom settings or something, but I think the letter on top of that is a good point. Colleen.
Is there a way to identify some members that have maybe never attended a meeting and encourage them to resign to lower the quorum number?
Yeah, I think that so I've been tracking each meeting, and I think that that's probably what we should, the folks that we should prioritize when we're writing the letter and sending those out. There's a few folks. I mean, one person who resigned was very apologetic and was like, oh, I know that I haven't been able to make them, and I'm so sorry. I don't think I can do it, which is totally understandable. But then there is a couple of other people who are who haven't come to any. So
as of tonight, not counting the July meeting, I've been tracking them from August on, and there are 4 that have never attended a meeting, 2 of whom have tendered their resignation. And there are some others who've only attended 1 out of the 4 meetings now. And as of right now, 6 of us have attended all 4 of these meetings: August, September, November, and December. So it's, I think, just not to belabor the point too much, but I think if folks are finding that either their level of interest is not high enough to motivate them to attend meetings, or their schedules are just too complicated, better if you're not able to at least commit to attending most of the meetings, better step back. If we end up with a smaller group of people who can consistently come, that would be better, I think, in the long run. And there's still, there is still an opportunity for you know, folks who are interested, but not to the point of being able to attend meetings regularly, to participate in the process, at least by watching the recordings of the meetings, you know, providing input to us.
Mhm.
So this is like, I know we, you know, when we sort of started out on this, we were sort of skeptical of how well a 27-member group would work out. And I think we're beginning to see, and I think maybe hopefully things will kind of settle into where we've got a perhaps smaller group of people who are generally more committed.
Mhm.
But we'll see. I agree with the idea of reaching out to folks and you know, sort of taking a reading on where everybody's at, and ultimately driving towards a committee that will be probably smaller but generally more workable.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll coordinate that in the background. And yeah, we'll go from there. But yeah, I just wanted to run it by the group because, you know, I want everyone to make sure that they have a say. So that is basically all I had for my agenda items.
Yep, and I think sort of next, and sort of the major thing we wanted to get to tonight was the vision statement, where we have CMRPC has provided us with a draft of actually sort of two alternative, very similar but not exactly the same vision statements, which were posted on the website the other day, and it's really, you know, we can't take a vote on it because we don't have a quorum, but I think we can provide the feedback and our thoughts, and we can take it from there.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, we were hoping we would be able to adopt, the committee would be able to adopt this today, but maybe we can arrive at a consensus for the final version, and we can do that next time. I'm going to mention that next time we want to move into goal development, and at the end of our meeting today, after we talk about the vision statement, we wanted to briefly introduce the goals and what we're hoping to achieve with the goals and how we're hoping to work with the committee on the goals. We'll also send you some information by email to make it easier to work with the goals, but we'll start with a vision statement. As you can see, the versions are pretty similar. I would say the main difference between the two is that we've added a note. We made a note of economic development in the second one, somewhat indirect. So the question we wanted to pose to the committee is whether we need to, you know, elaborate a little bit more and on where we hope Grafton will be as far as economic growth. And the other thing that we didn't quite include in the vision statement is the issue of housing. We captured it with this idea of mixed-use villages. So that does get at housing, but if the committee thinks that we need to be more direct with how we address housing and housing growth, and how that's evolved and where we want it to be over the next 2 decades, then we can certainly introduce some wording about that. So I think if we can start by thinking, you know, what could be added, what could be changed in these two versions.
Yeah, so I'll be more than happy to hear what everybody's thoughts on this. Now, I'll start by saying I generally like the version 2. For the most part, the one thing that I would modify with this is the sentence on new growth. New growth is accommodated through inclusive mixed-use villages that encourage walkability and sustainable mobility. To me, that is much too limiting. It really focuses on just one aspect of new growth. My preference would be to say something along the lines of new growth is accommodated through new development and redevelopment of diverse forms of housing to meet the needs of an increasingly diverse population. You know, diverse forms of housing certainly include the idea of mixed use villages, but it's not limited to that. And that's why I think, I would prefer that the vision statement not get that specific in saying mixed use villages, that's what we want. Because it's only part of what I want. I want a rather broader concept of, continued development of housing diversity. And we can get into the details of what that means as we get into drill down into goals and objectives. But as a broad vision statement, to me, that better represents my thinking. Of course, everybody's entitled to their own thoughts and opinions on that. So while I like that, it doesn't mean I'm necessarily right.
This is Brian speaking. Are we going to include the information about mobility in that somehow? I think that's important because we're really working on that aspect of having the parts of town being able to come together in terms of transportation and mobility. I think that in terms of the, and I'm not sure if the mobility is the same definition I'm giving it, but we've been talking about that for some time, so is that possible to, when we talk about, transportation, we talk about multimodal types of transportation, in some way, shape, or form.
Do you like this walkability and sustainable mobility, or I like the multimodal that you had there?
Yeah, multimodal might cover a lot more broader type of approach.
Right. I think that is something we like, and I wouldn't tie that specifically to housing. It's a broader topic than housing. It's just, generally speaking, we would like to see the town become more walkable and more supportive of sustainable multimodal mobility. So I like the idea of including in there. I just don't, in my mind, I don't tie that just to housing.
Yeah, that makes sense. We can make it into a standalone sentence. As far as mobility as a keyword, I wonder if we might want to make it more, less of a, technical analytical term for transportation, more of a, we can say transportation instead of mobility.
I'd like to add that, given how many times we heard the desire for sidewalks, that maybe it does need to be attached in some ways to housing, particularly the walkability. And I almost think instead of the word encourage, the word enable would be a better word there as it relates to housing. It kind of talks about how housing is situated around the town, etc.
That's a good point, Deborah. And I also think Colleen has her hand up as well, and somebody else. Colleen and Justin have their hands up.
Thank you. It says stewarding, and then in the next sentence, stewards. So the town continues to balance growth to build a strong economic base while preserving its open space and cultural resources, so that we can use the word steward later and not have it sound repetitive would be nice.
Thanks for flagging that. Yeah.
Justin, did you have your hand up as well? I think I saw you. We didn't lose him. Okay. Never mind. Oh, wait a second. Yeah. There. Hold on, Justin. You should be able to talk now.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes. There we
Thanks,
go.
Fiona. Um, yeah, so I feel like Dave's comments are kind of really get at the heart of where I think our group can have a productive conversation, because I feel like that version two, that sentence really kind of focusing on accommodating new growth through that kind of inclusive mixed villages really hits at the heart of what our conversation was in our last month's meeting. And I'm actually very happy when I saw that language. So maybe Dave, just maybe you could just talk a little bit about what specifically you object to, because the way I heard your remarks, it sounds like you're saying, well, you want development to happen everywhere in all different shapes and sizes. I just don't really understand what your vision is.
Yeah, my vision is not limited to, I mean, if we focus so much on mixed use villages, that doesn't touch very much of Grafton. And it also is it's really it's a concept that to me is overly specific. I think more broadly in terms of diverse forms of housing, which certainly includes mixed use villages, but it's not limited to that. Now, mixed use villages are not the only way that housing is going to develop in Grafton. In part because where in Grafton mixed use villages are likely to even work, it's nowhere near all the place. It's limited to the point where I think it's I don't know how best to put it, but I think it's too constraining.
I think it's
There are
constraining
more.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think there are more opportunities for productive and useful forms of housing that don't necessarily fit the concept of a mixed use village. That's not the only kind of place I want to see growth possible.
Yeah, so I think it's constraining in a really good way. A lot of the kind of past development practices, not just in Grafton, but throughout the state, has been this kind of low density, sprawling development that consumes open space and threatens our natural ecosystem. So having new and existing villages is a pattern of urban development that allows us to be able to focus on sustainable mobility and has a future where people will be able to walk and bicycle and connect using public transit. So there's the idea that that constrains us. That's a good thing for me in terms of thinking about a future Grafton that I'm going to want to live in.
Yeah, well, see, that's not quite. Yeah, to me, that's not the best way to look at how Grafton should grow. Yeah. I don't want to be constrained that way.
Could we, this is Brian speaking, could we just maybe put to include mixed use villages? Maybe that would help
I
bridge
mean,
the two.
right, if you want to add, to me, it's beginning to add perhaps more detail to the vision statement than really belongs in a vision statement. To me, the concept of very diverse forms of housing, mixed use villages is a major part of that. But there are other possibilities as well. There's an awful lot of Grafton. I do want to get away from practically the sole form of growth we've had for the last 3 decades has been suburban sprawl. And I don't know that, I mean, obviously I don't want to see that continue in that form, but mixed use villages is not the only alternative to that. I mean, we see a lot of potential development around that. That's not necessarily going to fit the idea of a mixed use village. In part because Grafton is nowhere near the sort of urban environment where a lot of mixed use villages are really going to fit or develop anytime within the next 20 to 30 years.
So I saw, and I'm so sorry because I think that some people had their hands raised and lowered. So if I missed you, I apologize. But I do see Colleen and Chantel also have their hands up. So we want to give them a chance as well. So Colleen, I'll pick on you first. So I saw you first.
So I already went. So Chantel, why don't you go and then I'll go next.
Sure, just because I took a big sip of water. I was just gonna ask if there was a way maybe just to emphasize either thinking about housing differently or emphasizing the diversity aspect of housing, just because that might because I think everyone agrees that we've done plenty of, you know, single family sprawling homes, and I think, you know, that it's I just wonder if there's a way to restructure that sentence just to emphasize that it would be more looking into different forms of housing, because I hate to leave out some of the other things we discussed, like accessory units, you know, and those kinds of things, and putting too much that into that one mixed use village verbiage as well. The second part, though, is that I want to make sure, my understanding is that there will be an opportunity elsewhere in the document to emphasize a desire to grow mixed use villages, and that not using those words in the vision statement doesn't necessarily mean that that's not a part of the plan going forward.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let me
Chantel,
respond
that's
to
a good
that
point.
real quick. That, as I said before, as a vision statement, so the broad statement about diverse forms of housing, we develop in objectives and goals, and the housing chapter, we will be developing in a lot more detail how we see going at that. So there's plenty of room to talk about these topics in more detail. That's why, going back to where I started, that's why I thought that, just sort of a high level statement about diverse forms of housing, new development and redevelopment, covers a lot of territory, and gives us the opportunity to work out the details of, mixed use villages, of other forms, ADUs, if we wanted to approach tiny houses or whatever. There are a lot of potential topics, and the vision statement is probably not the best place to try to drill down into a lot of detail, because you get more detailed, you're going to leave something out that you can leave something out that somebody else thinks is important.
Thank you, David.
Okay.
We're definitely going to get into those details as we develop the goals, but very quickly, I wanted to ask whether, we want to capture this idea of deliberate growth, which I think the mixed villages are trying to get at. So we can do both this idea of diverse housing and mention this idea of deliberate growth. And I'm sorry, I know
Okay,
people have their
Colleen.
hands up, so.
So I have
So
two,
here's the order that I caught it. Colleen's next, then I saw Lindsay. I don't know if Lindsay's hand is still up. And then I saw Sue, Bob Hassinger, then Bob Carroll, then John Allen. So there's a lot of hands up. So we'll follow that order.
okay. So I have two, and I'm gonna go down to where Grafton students receive an excellent education. If we can maybe change it to Grafton prioritizes students receiving an excellent education, I think that kind of hints at some of the overrides that we've passed where we really did prioritize education here without spelling it out. And for me, sentence 2, using the word new growth seems, I don't know, it's just too clinical for a vision statement for me. I don't know if, as the community continues to grow, it sounds a little more natural feeling for me in a vision statement, because a lot of what I'm hearing are going to get drilled down in the goals, where this needs to feel a little more light and airy to me. And maybe I'm off, but that's what I thought the vision statement was supposed to be.
That's a good point, Colleen. So, okay, so Sue, go ahead.
I just wanted to to say we need to be careful about, make sure it's a vision statement and not setting goals. One of the things I wanted just to address that Colleen brought up, I don't like the word prioritize. I like that Grafton students receive, Grafton promotes excellence in education and ample opportunities for success.
Well said.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Sue. So Bob Hassinger, and then Bob Carroll, and then John.
Yeah. I think I would agree with Dave a lot. When we did the prior plan back around 2000, I think we tried to keep this a simpler, and I haven't looked back to see exactly what we really did say. But I think this was an overall vision. We're looking for a town that's this and that, or the town wants to be this or that. And you don't drill down here into all the different, by the time this plan gets through its life, there'll be other ideas about how to do those things. I think you want a simple statement of the goals of the town. Think about it as also as something that you could get town meeting to agree to. The best bet is that town meeting will endorse the master plan. So think about the people who would be there and what they would like to see it say. Keeping it simple and focused on the kind of community we have been, are, and are going to. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, Bob, that makes sense. That's a good point. Bob Carroll, go ahead.
Hi, I'm sorry, yes, stumbling with getting off mute here. So I think my comments kind of dovetail and springboard off what Bob said, Bob Hassinger, because when I read this, and again, take it with a grain of salt, right? This to me, and we're talking about version 2, this is all kind of, and I'm just making general sweeps here. It's his current state, right? Grafton is, we do, our students, right? We're talking about, you know, the here and now. And I think vision statement is either, you know, what and where we want to go, what is the vision, or the net change, right? What do we want to change from the past, or what do we want to iterate, or what do we want to go forward with, right? The vision, the forward looking out the windshield versus the rear view mirror, right? Because I mean, most of the stuff we kind of, everyone knows, we preserve open space and we do this, and hopefully that sinks in and resonates with people.
Thank you, Bob. We can certainly change the language to be future looking and aspirational. This would be prefaced by in 20 years from now, Grafton is, so that's why this is not immediately apparent, but we can certainly change the language.
Okay, and then you know, I would the other comment that Bob made, you know, stay away from, avoid being overly pedantic and prescriptive, right? Again, big, broader statements that people can get behind, I think is where we want to go, and stay away from, you know, the prescriptive nature of the kind of housing, the kind of development, right? More, you know, responsive to trends, responsive to population, responsive to, you know, what is coming down the road in the future with the future generations, right? What our kids want to do. And, you know, maybe the single family homes, right? That may not be where they're at, so.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. John, and then Lindsay.
Okay. When we're talking about the housing thing, I can't tell you the number of legal documents that I read that use the words including but not limited to. So that gets you out of this box that we don't want to be in and trying to put ourselves. So it's including but not limited to. And then when we talk about the town continues to balance growth to build a strong economic base while preserving open space, then we read the next sentence and we're talking about land. I feel like those two sentences need to be tightened a bit. With the word land being deleted from the second sentence, because we just referenced it in the sentence before it.
Thank you, John.
Lindsay, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So I guess kind of what I'm hearing, what this vision statement is, it's trying, kind of condense it, make it short and sweet, and not get too involved in too much. But I'm just wondering, in doing that, is the last line necessary?
Yeah, maybe not necessary. It was trying to capture this idea of a responsive government, involved citizenry.
Gotcha.
Maybe we can work that in. If you think the sentence is just hanging at the end, we can work it in somehow. If you think that should be included.
Yeah, I think that's something that we can definitely consider, and a good point. Thanks, Lindsay. Susan, go ahead.
So I like version 2 as well. I think that the changes that we made to the second sentence takes away, it's only talking about housing, and I think that the mixed use villages also identifies that we're also looking at commercial development, and that is going to meet the needs, not just the housing needs, but of the entire population and the community through both housing and commercial development. So, and then the other, we have now that last sentence about Grafton promotes opportunities for excellent education and ample opportunities. There's a couple spots where we're using the same word in the same sentence. So I was just looking at the high school's mission statement, and I guess the ample opportunities for success, I'm not loving that, but I don't know how to improve it. But the mission of the high school is to prepare the students intellectually, physically, and socially for their role as lifelong learners and responsible citizens. So I like that promotes excellent education, and it's more like lifelong learning and responsible citizenry, which then kind of meshes into that final sentence nicely. So I can't tell you how to reword it, but those are my thoughts.
I love that, because what we were trying to get at with the ample is a weird word, right? Like the not just K through 12, but adult education, workforce development. So I like that lifelong education.
Lifelong learners. It should be lifelong learners.
Lifelong learners, thank you. And
I don't know why we really couldn't just use that sentence that's from the mission statement for the Grafton High School and rephrase it a little bit. We don't want to be accused of plagiarism, but I think it really says what we need to say about lifelong learning, lifelong learners.
Could it be lifelong civilly engaged learners? Or somehow about including civil engagement to help, like they said, tie in the last sentence and maybe.
Could you read that last sentence from the mission statement again about lifelong learning?
Yeah, that's so to prepare our students intellectually, physically, and socially for their role as lifelong learners and responsible citizens.
Yeah, I like that. Because that's really what our goal is.
4, Grafton promotes excellent education for lifelong learners and responsible citizens. Does that make sense?
I think the school said it better. Why don't we just drop what the school had and put quotes around it? Because you can't be more elegant than the schools.
Yeah, I liked what the school said, but I
What was
just,
the first half?
The problem with I mean, the school is good because that's one part of, we're preparing our students, but also I think what we're trying to do in our master plan is also to identify that all of the citizens have opportunities for education, right? So I think we're trying to identify both of those things. Am I right, Sarah? Or...
That was our intent, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the first half is like social, physical, mental education of students, or something like that.
Yeah, I'll read it again. And I don't think we should do it word for word, but it says the mission of Grafton High School is to prepare all of our students intellectually, physically, and socially for their role as lifelong learners and responsible citizens.
Okay. So the difference here would be prepare instead of promote.
yeah.
Yeah. Which one do we like better?
Well, I'd like promote excellence in education and then prepare them for life, however it was said, prepare them for lifelong learners and whatever. I don't remember how it was stated.
Mm-hmm.
Because you really promote excellence in education, you don't prepare it, you promote it. So.
How's that?
I think Sue said a couple of times excellence, EXCELLENCE.
Promote excellence in education.
In education. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To prepare lifelong learners and respond. Yeah, I like that.
Can we add the word success?
Mm-hmm.
To be successful?
Where do you want to see success at the end?
I could see responsible and successful citizens.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And if we have this part, do we want to take out this last sentence, or is that last sentence still powerful here?
That should be deleted in my opinion.
Sue, did you say something?
Yeah, I just said I don't really care for that last sentence.
Bob Carroll?
Yeah, so since we're talking about education and lifelong learners, I was wondering, has anyone run this through or done any exercise with respect to like Chat GPT or AI? Because I would think if we fed this in and I've done some prompt engineering, we could get something really close, or at least have a data point and say that we, explored that, and that's the reality of and is the future and what our kids will be looking at, right? So I guess what I'm asking, the ask is continue the path we're going, but then also explore AI in writing a vision statement for Grafton. Or does that blow everyone's mind?
No, Bob, it's just that it's funny because I just read an article about how college students are cheating with AI and writing essays and everything else in high school kids. So
it's a fact of life, right?
It is
and
a fact.
I have college kids, and but AI also used in the right way, right, as a validation tool, or to explore again, because based on all the knowledge and what's ingested, it's a good way of, at least as a sounding board and in good conscience, like this group would be full disclosure. And again, that's just we could honestly say in developing our mission statement, we evaluated AI and the output of AI in terms of what it gave us in the current version, because, you know, that would again incorporate a lot of trends, what other towns are doing, right? It has all that knowledge. A lot of crickets.
My experience is that AI is a super powerful tool that's being underutilized. If you copied and type the word rewrite, copied and paste it, you'd be amazed at the quality of the work that you get, especially if you do the paid version.
Right. So again, I'm not suggesting that we discard what we're doing, right? We just compare and contrast, right? And use it as another data point. And then when, you know, someone else calls us on this and say, hey, did anyone look at AI, you know, 4 or 5 months down the road, we can, you know, respond and say, yes, absolutely, we did our due diligence.
Bob,
Could I jump
yeah.
in here for a second?
I'm sorry?
Could I jump in here for a second?
Yeah, Alex.
Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Sure.
So I'm actually an AI consultant, and that was kind of one of my first thoughts. Probably being a little forward thinking here in that aspect. Is there a way I can get access to this document so I can kind of use AI and see what it drums up, and then I can reshare it with the group?
It might be most helpful for me to copy and paste. I think the version online is a PDF, but I can put the text we have here in the chat. Does that work?
Sure, that works. Yeah, and I can drop in a couple examples.
Thank you, Alex. And if you could, you know, would be curious what prompts you're using to get content out of AI. That's what I was going to ask the committee too, because I know a lot of it is in the prompts that you feed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess I would lean on the group here to decide that. You know, it's going to ask what direction you want this, I guess, message to be delivered to, or in a specific way. So, you know, one thing, just trying to keep this at its highest level is, you know, one thing, if you want it to, you could say that, you know, we want this message to be centered around academics and the you know, kind of the forward thinking or progression of what academic capabilities lead us to in the near future. And then it'll make this message centered around what academics looks like, right? So, you know, if maybe the group can, I don't want to overtake the meeting here, but if someone has specific messaging that they want to come across, if you drop it in the chat, I can then kind of shift it in that direction. If that makes sense.
Yeah, my whole point was, I think it sounds like there's some interest, right? That we should explore. I wasn't looking to get too down in the weeds and prescriptive on, again, how, but that just that we were going to use it as another tool. That's all.
Yeah, I see several other hands up there. I think Deborah and then Bob Hassinger and then Colleen and then Sue. I'm not sure I got the order correct, but I think that's. So Deborah?
I was just going to say that I just feel promotes excellence in education to prepare lifelong learners and responsible and successful citizens is, on one hand, it's vague, and on the other hand, it's just talking about, I know our intent is just aimed at the children in the town. Grafton, as far as I can tell, has no intention to promote senior education or midlife education or those sorts of things. So I would just say perhaps Grafton values its K through 12 education, but I feel that this sentence got very vague, and I don't know. It's weird to put in responsible and successful citizens in a vision statement, in my mind. I like the involved citizenry portion. I think that, that it would be part of a good vision for the town. So that's my 2 cents at this point.
Yeah, Bob Hassinger, did you, I know you see, I see you lowered your hand. Did you have anything to add?
I don't understand. We're doing a simple, like you said, Dave, vision statement, and now we're going off into using AI and what the schools have to say, and simple. Does Grafton want to be a city? Does Grafton want to be a rural community? Does Grafton want to be a you know, some sort of a simple description of in between, keeping its some of its tradition. Leave it, be simple.
Yeah, we should keep in mind that this is a vision statement. It's not a strategy or tactics. It's not goals and objectives. Anyway, Colleen
That's what
and
the whole rest of the book is about.
Yeah.
Is what we're gonna do.
Yep. Keep that in mind. Colleen and Sue
So
and
to
Fiona.
Deborah's point, I was hoping to see an additional sentence along the lines of, and feel free to rip this apart, but Grafton has an active senior community supported through a range of local resources, which we hoping to strengthen over the next decade. Because we do have a lot of great resources like the Grafton Food Bank, an active senior center, and a lot of just, wonderful things as the community is going to age, and to acknowledge that would be good.
Okay, Sue?
I just wanted to say, I don't have a problem if people want to just experiment with AI and see what they could come up with. But Grafton is a unique town, and we need to keep that in mind, that this is our town and it's unique, and I don't want to compare it to all the other towns around. The vision statement's supposed to be coming from us and what we would like to see. And if you want to go ahead with it, fine, but it's got to have some of us in it. I don't want to just comparing, what other towns have, and then we come up with some generality that's not unique to us.
Okay. Fiona?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was gonna say. Thanks, Sue. So I think that firstly, I think that we're all in kind of we have a general idea of how this is going to look, and I think everybody's feedback has been super helpful. I'm like, we're getting there. One thing I will say about the AI is I definitely, happy to see what the results are, but I think that really there should be like a vision statement that's crafted by, the working group and is original to you folks, as well as public input that we receive. And, I do have a little bit of concern about a general type of statement that's just put out by AI personally, but I understand that that's where technology is going, and it would be interesting to see the results, but I just definitely don't want to lose the individuality of this process, and it really truly is like a public process, and we want to loop in your voices as much as possible, rather than relying too much on the tech side of things. So I just wanted to point that out, but I think our comments they're coming together. I can really see this forming, and I think at the next meeting, we definitely, as I said, we can see what the results are, but I think we're getting there. We're in a good spot. I think there's a couple of, we're going back and forth a little bit on semantics, but that's fine, and I think we will get there. That was just my 2 cents. I don't want to put too much my opinion too much, because I'm staff, and it's really, I don't take ownership of this. This is your vision statement, but I just wanted to state that. Thank you.
Yep. No, I think I think we are converging on the ideas that we want to express here, and we're now we've kind of gotten to the point of more the wordsmithing, and and obviously we need to we need to finalize the wording of this, but since we don't have a quorum, we can't vote on anything tonight, but as was stated, we'll take this, and Central Mass, Sarah and company will take this, and sort of considering all that we've talked about tonight, look at further tweaking of the wording, bring it back to our next meeting for final approval. And again, just to reemphasize what a few folks have been reminded us of, that this is a vision statement. This is not the strategy or the tactics of how we get, working out all the details or even any of the details. This is just sort of a broad-based vision statement of the kind of town we think we want to be in 20 years or so. And we will have ample opportunity throughout this process of developing the master plan to nail down the specifics of, when we talk about economic growth. Well, what are the specifics? How do we see us getting to where the vision statement sort of says we want to be? So that, again, not to hammer on the point too hard, but yeah, this should not be a lot of specific detail. It's a more of a general sense of where we want to be in 20 years or 10 or 20 years. So with that, is there, unless anybody has anything further to talk about the vision statement, seems to me like we're about where we need to be for now.
Yeah, Dave, I did have something else I wanted to add.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I respectfully disagree. I think that having detail is important here because the reason I accepted the invitation to join this working group is because I feel like this is an opportunity to do something bold and not just the status quo, and then just continue with the development pattern that the town has been experiencing. So I think it's really important in the vision statement to say something bold, and that means to be specific and not to just be generic. So I actually curious about others think, because if you feel like this is an opportunity that our working group is going to take a stand and do something pretty momentous, then this vision statement is the time that we need to get it right.
Linda wants to talk.
It's me, not Bob.
Linda.
Thank you.
And I have two hands up as well.
I know. Keep in mind, there's going to be a whole document that is going to spell out the specifics of what it is that we really, the directions of things like economic growth, housing. There's a whole document coming behind this. This is just one paragraph to open up. It's like, hi, we're here and we're so excited to be here and to tell the world what we want to be. And when you start to dive down into the document, you're going to find out exactly what we mean by that. There's ample stuff from planning board, from select board, and other input, the economic development committee, everybody has input coming into this. And this is only just a brief one paragraph statement saying, hi, welcome to Grafton. And now you're going to read all about what our vision is for the future in a document that's following this. It's kind of like the preamble to the Constitution. Doesn't say everything. The Constitution did. And I think I think this is a really good start. And I would say, let them go with it and see what they can turn all the input they've gotten tonight, that they've received, see what they can turn it into. That's my piece.
Chantal.
Yeah, so I guess I don't see a problem with being bold in the vision statement, or sort of introducing the idea that we're going to be rethinking maybe some of the things that we've always done. But I don't necessarily think that that has to mean getting too granular in the vision statement. I think it's possible to be bold, and I think that's maybe good feedback for a future draft, is sort of, really emphasizing kind of an openness to not doing things the way we've always done. And I feel like that can be woven in here without necessarily locking us into details that belong in the rest of the document. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, in fact, I would go so far as to say, I think I would, just based on these past few minutes, I think I would be comfortable if this vision statement said, and I don't exactly know how to express it, but I think it would be good for the vision statement to say, we expect to, or we want to change the direction in some way. I'm not sure what the right words are, but the bold statement would be to go along with what you've said, Chantal, that we look to change the direction of, for the lack of a better term, the direction of development or the pattern of development. We don't have to say what that is, but we have to say, I think in no uncertain terms, that we're looking to change the way we have been developing, and that's particularly true of housing, but not limited to that. But we want to change, make a change to how that's going to go. Fiona.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I understand where Justin's coming from, wanting to be bold and do something really drastically different with this document and show how Grafton is really pivoting based on where we were, in 2001. But I do at the same time understand the importance of being concise, because we want people to read it. We also want people to dive in deep into the chapters to get into the granular bits, as Chantal mentioned. I'm wondering if there's some sort of solution that we can come to where it's like a few sentences with a couple of bulleted items as the bold takes that the committee wants to do. This is just a suggestion. I'm not favoring one way or the other. Again, I'm not trying to put too much of my 2 cents in. It's really not my vision statement to craft, but I'm trying to think of a way that we can meet in the middle. I don't know, open to thoughts and feedback about that. Let me know.
Okay, Colleen, you have your hand up.
So people notoriously hate change, so maybe expand our views instead of change might encapsulate what you're trying to do without saying the word change.
Yeah, I think in my proposal for that bit about new development and redevelopment of diverse forms of housing, that is based on a presumption that it's a change in direction. And I guess if you paid enough attention to how we've been developing housing, you realize that statement is a substantial change in direction. But yeah, I don't want to belabor the point, but being more explicit about that in some way, shape, or form, some right choice of words as part of a vision statement would be good.
Yeah, we can certainly incorporate some of these ideas, and I think the language can capture a change in the direction of development, as you said, David. There are many ways we can express this. I don't think Grafton is going into the direction of new urbanism, but there's certainly tried and true planning principles to create compact communities, which is what I think the committee is getting at in many ways. This change from the status quo, which has been sprawl. But it would be also very helpful to us if you could email us some points. We'll try to incorporate them somehow, but having this feedback from the committee would be very valuable. Either keywords to incorporate or ways to capture this direction.
Yeah, Lindsay, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. I was just going to say, I kind of agree with what Colleen was saying about how, if you're change sometimes makes people uncomfortable. But I don't know if something wording it like, exploring the opportunities for change would ease into it a little bit more.
We can evolve or we can transition. I don't know. There's all kinds of words for change, so.
Yep. Yeah, I do acknowledge that how we word this may make a difference in how it's accepted. And yes, it's sort of obvious that we see it time and time again. People really don't like change, but the way we've, again, I think we're enough.
Mr. Chair, if I could just, I would like to give Chantal and Alex an opportunity to say their final thoughts, but I think maybe the best thing would be, I think we have a good basis, and I think I do want to talk about, because we are getting, we're at time actually, so I want to make sure that we're not too far over, and also that we have a good game plan for the next meeting so we can wrap this up. So Chantal, you go ahead. Sorry, I don't know if your hand was up again or if that was from the last time, and then Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, I just forgot to put it down, so we're good.
Okay. Alex. Alex is
you're
on
on
mute.
mute.
Sorry about that. You would think we know how to use Zoom by now. I just pasted over the draft, but if you want me to email it over as well, I can do that if someone gives me an email to send it to.
Yeah, Alex, I'll email it. You can just send it right to me. I think you might have my email already. But I'll put it in the chat. But yeah, so Elena and Sarah, just for next time, I know that we are trying to get this going. So would it be the most beneficial thing to obviously take the feedback that we heard from last month's meeting and this month's meeting, and then I can give a deadline to the master plan working group members to get written comments submitted by a certain time frame and send them to you so that we can try and culminate a final product and then hopefully vote on it by the next time. What's going to make, how do you want me to do, how do you want to do this? Because I don't want to hold you up. I know we have other action items we need to get to in the plan, so.
So I think we got a lot out of this meeting, but if there are any suggestions for how we can capture this larger idea, this new direction, that maybe we don't need to call it change, but I think a lot of committee members are getting at the fact that there needs to be a new approach. And it's a complex conversation. We would like to capture it in the vision statement. So if you have any suggestions, you can either send them to Fiona or to Sarah and me, and we'll try to incorporate them. We'll circulate a new version of the vision statement to the committee before the next meeting so that at the next meeting, the committee can adopt it.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to do this is to send them to me, everyone, because then I can compile all of the comments into one and send them to CMRPC in a concise format. So yeah, I think that's a good plan. And I'll also send out an email reminder to everyone who wasn't able to make it this evening and let them know, here's what we arrived at, here's the comments, and if you could just please provide your 2 cents by X date. I think that's probably the best way to do it. It's such a big group.
Sounds good. And, one more thing I wanted to note, we're hoping to move on to goal development for the next session. We're also trying to keep with our timeline. So part of the next session will be introducing goals. And we'll send some materials by email. Today we had prepared some slides and an example, but I know we're at time, so maybe we can just circulate that by email.
Yeah, I think that's a good, if you send that to me, Elena, I'm going to send out an email to everyone, and I'll just attach that information.
Sounds good. It's kind of hard. And one question I wanted to pose to the committee, and it's a little difficult without the slides, but we have 2 ways of working on goals with the committees. We either work on goals and objectives, or we work on goals, objectives, and action items, which, you know, is a more complex approach, but we find it very useful to get suggestions from the committee on action items. We, as the plan develops, we like to keep those action items flexible and adjust along the way. So that's one thing I wanted to put out there to the committee is if we do choose the approach of working on all three levels, goals, objectives, action items, that we kind of keep the action items flexible so that the committee doesn't have to vote on language changes every time we incorporate changes in the chapters. So we'll touch on this next time as well, but in the slides that we send out, we'll have definitions that you all probably already know of the difference between goals, objectives, and action items. And then an example from Rutland of goals, objectives, and action items. So next time we can decide on how we can approach this. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Elena.
Anything else at this point? We covered everything we were going to cover this evening. I know we had something on stakeholder interviews and next steps were listed on the agenda.
Sarah, Elena, did you want to do an update there? Or...
No update, but if you have any suggestions for stakeholder interviews that you think might be providing us with important content for the plan, please let us know.
Yeah, I think we had that list from a little bit, but if anyone has a little while ago, but if anyone has any additional thoughts about somebody who should be interviewed.
Especially the business and development community, I feel that that's kind of a gap in our conversation so far. So if you can put us in touch with developers or members of the business community, it would be very useful.
You could talk about that offline.
Yeah, and I'll definitely do a plug for Essek, who's on the committee. He couldn't make it this evening, but he is a good person to talk to. He works for Pulte, so yeah. Alrighty.
Anything else? I think we got more done, more talked about tonight than I thought we might. I think we did. We are closer to having a vision statement, which is good. And we won't be meeting again until next year. So unless there's any objection, we'll make the next meeting will be February 5th. And hopefully we'll be able to muster a quorum. We may have some committee membership changes. And in between now and then, Fiona, you and I we can work on reaching out to committee members and.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll try and get that finalized sooner rather than later, so we don't have to worry about it going forward.
Yep. And since we don't have a quorum, we can't officially vote to adjourn the meeting, but we can just say this informal get-together is wrapped up for this evening. Thank you all for attending and participating, for all of your valuable input, and